Hi guys, welcome back to Around the Table, and we are talking about the now, I don't know if the word is infamous or famous, part 8 of season 3 of Twin Peaks. So everyone goes back to and saying, if everyone's talking about season 3 of Twin Peaks, you must watch part 8, It seems to be that's the go-to episode, really. So I'm thrilled to be able to talk about it, and also to be able to talk about it with some lovely people as well. So I'm going to introduce them now. We have Annie. How are you, Annie?
Hi, Frank. I'm good. How are you?
Great, thank you. We have Mirella. Have I got that right? From the Netherlands.
Yes, it's Mirella from the Netherlands,
Mirella,
indeed.
Lovely to see you. Your first ever podcast.
Nice to be here.
And of course, we've got Tim from Texas. How are you, Tim?
All right, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good to be here.
Right, let's go for it. Straight in. Part 8. That's why I had to write notes, because there's so much happening in this. Chime in anytime you want and talk about any theories or anything you want to talk about. It carries on from when Ray and Mr. C broke out of prison, sort of broke out, although in quite a smooth way. And they were driving in the car, and I'm going to call him Mr. C for now. We're going to a place called the farm, he says, which of course we see later on, some episodes later, when we see this place called the farm. So Mr. C takes Ray, tells Ray to go off the highway and into a little road. They pull up, and then of course there's a bit of double crossing going on, because Ray has switched the guns, because there was a gun in the glove compartment that Mr. C takes out, thinking I'm going to take him out, but it doesn't work that way, because Ray turns around and plugs Mr. C with two rounds of lead, and he collapses on the floor. And that was a very tense scene.
You actually see Ray going, to the toilet.
He goes to pee. I think he was pretending to, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And Mr. C is really proud of having his gun that he negotiated or blackmailed, something to do with Mr. Strawberry to get his gun. And then he also pretends that Daria is waiting for them.
Yeah.
You can tell that Ray feels suspicious. He's kind of not sure what's happening. He also says he's trying to bribe him. He says he wants to get some money for the information that he has, the numbers that he has in his head.
Which, of course, Mr. C's not going to do. He's not going to give him anything.
No, exactly.
I think Ray was also really testing Mr. C, like how he would react.
Yes.
If he would grab for the gun or not.
Yeah. Oh, also the tracking devices. How they have like 3 of those.
I don't know. I couldn't see what he was entering into the phone. He was doing something, or
I think he was
and then threw it, didn't he?
Writing down the plate number of the truck before.
Yeah.
I think he's misleading them, putting the information on that truck so that if they follow him, they're going to follow the truck.
Yes,
that's before them. Yeah.
I like how they subvert your expectations, though. You think that Mr. C is going to assassinate Ray, just as he did Daria earlier in the story, and instead Ray turns the table on him, and then what we see is really strange and magical and weird. I mean, it's like all those woodsmen coming up, and it's really it really does set the stage for what's going to end up being a very bizarre hour of Twin Peaks.
When I saw these images of the woodsmen coming in and being kind of transparent, it also makes me think of episode 17. Later on, you see the image of Cooper in front, kind of like transparent.
Yeah.
In the office, the police office.
Yeah, everything's through him. Yeah.
It's kind of like 2 layered. So you see that appearing a few times within the entire return.
But Ray is definitely aware of them there.
Yeah, he looks very afraid as well. He freaks out.
Looking at them, and he's freaked out like mad,
At this time, too, we don't know he's a double agent working for the FBI. we only find that out after his death. And I think way like in 16 or 17.
It's way on. It's way further on. Yeah.
Because Gordon mentions him, so that's a nice little subtle twist later.
And he gets a mention in the final dossier as well.
True.
He gets a whole chapter in it. Yeah, Ray Monroe, which is quite interesting to do that. But anyway, the bit that really freaks him out the most is when they're smearing the blood over Mr. C's face, and it pans down, and Bob's smiling at him.
Yeah. It's really creepy.
Enough to scare the shit out of anyone, to be honest.
Yeah, that's when he runs away.
It's in his stomach or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm really puzzled why this time Bob doesn't really completely get out, and they're able to resuscitate Mr. C, whereas in the finale that's not what happens. So I'm not sure what's the secret ingredient to make that happen. And you remember the first time you saw this, it was like, that's the strangest CPR I've ever seen. And I don't know, it looks like they're putting sand, like dirt inside of him or something. Has it got something to do with, how they have to put dirt in their pockets to
it's hard to
vortexes?
It's hard to see sometimes exactly what they're doing.
I think I've got an idea.
Out his stomach, whether they're releasing him, I can never quite get that bit.
Okay, to answer your question, Annie, why in the finale Bob leaves the body of Mr. C? It might be the reason because Cooper has arrived. Bob, I think knows that if he stays, it's too close. Yeah. It's too close. In the first time when this ceremony happens with the woodsman, Cooper is not even close to the area. There's not much danger for Bob, I think that's the reason why there's a difference.
I think the rules are a bit arbitrary anyway. I don't think there's any hard and fast set of rules. That it just depends on what actually happens. I mean, in a way, because why is it that it's 25 years later you will be brought back in whether you like it or not, which is what Mr. C's predicament is. He doesn't want to return. He's already set up a dummy to return in his place if it happens, and apparently it only happens when the real Cooper leaves. So it's not really explained very well. I don't think it's meant to be. I think it's just kind of a Lynch thing.
A lot of things very very on.
He's not going to give you a lot of answers.
No.
Never does.
We get a few like in certain episodes. They do actually give a lot of answers to certain things at certain points. Mm-hmm. They tie up a few loose ends, but I know what you mean. In the grand scheme of things, it still leaves us hanging a lot. Particularly in the very last episode.
Well, he tends to make people want to overthink it, and the truth is, the less you think about it, the more enjoyable it is. I think, on a lot of occasions.
Well, I absolutely love. One thing about Lynch's work is I love theorizing. There's nothing as enjoyable as talking to your friends like we are now and thinking, what did he mean by that? And we're never going to get it right, but it's lovely to be able to have that's what he brings out of us.
Yeah,
that's a tribute to him.
I think it's 50-50. You need to have some
not clear cut. Popcorn. You know exactly what's going to happen from the beginning, middle, and end. It's tiresome. His stuff, you've got to think a lot.
Like he says, the viewer completes the experience of the art. In other words, they bring their attention to it and create the art. That's what he said on many occasions.
Yes.
In other words, you interpret what his art is. That's you being part of the process. So
I think indeed you're very right, Tim. It's like when you make art. I used to go to art school, and one of my teachers was saying, like, your work is too perfect. It's too complete. Don't fill in everything. Leave some things open so that the people that are going to watch your work can have their own imagination about it. And to kind of come to David Lynch, I feel it's like 50-50 as well. It's like narrativity.
It's a partnership, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's also intuition. So it's some things that you can't explain. It's a beautiful marriage.
It's the beauty is that also that often people have different opinions about what it is they're seeing or understanding or reading it in a different way, which I guess could lead to arguments, but it also leads to understanding better, I guess, in a lot of ways.
Just think, if you get more than one person in a room and you're watching the same thing, you're never quite watching it in the same way.
Yeah,
everybody's got a different.
It's there presented the same way, but we're viewing it in a slightly different way to the person next to us, which is
sorry.
Great.
Everybody's got another background, different culture, your life story.
Wow.
Yes. So it's like for everybody, it's different.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back to the scene, of course, Ray freaks out, gets in the car, speeds off, big cloud of dust, blah blah blah, and he's on the phone to Philip Jeffries. It seems. Yeah. So he's reporting to him.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
He just says Philip. He doesn't really say Philip Jeffries. You know how David.
But we know how he ended up.
Has several people with the same name. Yeah, but
that's a kettle.
Yeah, but then later on, with Gordon in that scene that we mentioned earlier, he does say that he was in contact with Philip Jeffries. So is it the same fake Philip Jeffries that Bad Cooper spoke to some episodes ago?
But it was the real
I think
one.
It might be the real one
before he evolved into the teapot.
Yeah. Or maybe his teapot has got some Wi-Fi or something.
Evolution of Philip Jeffries.
Yeah.
His fate with the teapot, the poor bastard. Then again, Michael J. Anderson became a tree, so I'm sure he's really happy about that as well. Yeah. So anyway, he mentions Ray mentions about he's heading to the farm. And he says, "I'm just as a precautionary measure. If he does come looking for me, I'll kill him there." So yeah. And now, meanwhile, in the Roadhouse, we have the 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah.
And a pine cone.
Yeah, and the pine cone.
I still don't understand the. Why the 9 Inch Nails? Why?
This was when you knew, though, that this was going to be very different, because we've already been trained to think that they close out each episode at the Roadhouse with the credits and everything, and now all of a sudden here it is 12 minutes in, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Plus, they give a full performance too, and they have an MC now who introduces them, so it's very different.
But because of what happens after it makes sense where they placed it, because I don't think they could have fitted it at the end, really. I don't think it really would have worked.
I think it fits better. I think it fits better where it's at. It's also signaling the viewers that, hey, this is going to be different now. It's
going to be dark.
You've had your episode, your regular episode.
Performance as well, can't you? You think something bad's going to happen after this.
Yeah.
There's just some tension there, And then, of course, there is. We get the image of Mr. C waking up again. He pops up like that, Brilliant timing, as soon as they finish with the shh sound, he's up. Oh, shit, we're in trouble now with him back, Then, of course, this is when the fun starts, because we start going back in time all of a sudden to 1945 in White Sands, New Mexico. And we hear a countdown, and I'm sure that's Lynch talking on that countdown. It sounds like he sounds through a megaphone.
It's Bucky J.
I swear that's Lynch's voice. And of course, the sound that sting going into the music was like with the light, that first sting was that really hits the old heart, It's very tense. And we start zooming in very, very slowly, Lynch style, into the mushroom cloud, and then dive into it. And then we get we're bombarded with all these images, these strange images, vortexes, a bit like, and we know he loves Kubrick.
Yeah,
and you can see elements of that with the vortex, out of 2001. There's all sorts of things. There's images from his early films thrown in. I can see like images from the alphabet and fuzzy stuff from, and even like Eraserhead going on. All sorts with the dust kind of stuff. When they throw the pencil, in Eraserhead when he wipes the pencil sharpenings off. And
I was also
like that,
I was also thinking about something else when I was watching the whole kind of explosion, and we go deeper and deeper in. I was thinking of the transcendent. It's always difficult for me to say transcendental meditation that David Lynch does.
You think that's what it looks like when he's doing the meditation?
No, it's more. It's about. I was watching this documentary, Meditation Creativity Peace, and he's explaining this thing about diving deeper, doing this mantra thing, and then and it's like going deeper in. It's like getting closer, like micro, and this is kind of what you see here. and it's. I think it's a kind of like
it's a kind of metaphor on that.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. Yeah, in a way, because he's definitely throwing many elements of his early stuff in there, and all sorts of trippy stuff.
Yeah, I think it's really a mixture of all these elements, what you're also talking about, coming together.
And what was that? Can anyone tell me what that? Because I can never remember the name of it. What was that piece of music they used for the atomic blast? It's an old song, isn't it? An old
Hiroshima one, you mean?
Yeah, it was for victims of Hiroshima. I can't remember who the composer is or anything. It's an old song, isn't it?
Threnody for the victims of Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And it's from a Polish composer, Penderecki.
When I watched it again yesterday, also the images we were talking about, I mean, and they're so different, right? There's like a series of them. They're all so different. And you feel like you're zooming in on like the neutrons and like really going...
It's like the neurons of the brain, you know, when you get those electrical pulses.
Yeah, and also like a cloud of flies or something. And, you know, knowing the frog moth is coming at the end of the episode, it just looks like a cloud of like buzzing little
insects.
It's just, and then, you know, it reminded me of my science classes as well, like years ago. And it also reminds me of a kind of art movie, modern art, exhibition somewhere. It's just like it's perfect. And the first time I saw it, I didn't have the same reaction as now. I kind of know what to expect.
Almost like an electrical.
I was thinking like smoke and thunder, explosion, electricity made me think of like the neutrons and protons are like also like electricity. We're all like electricity based in a way, and everything in the world.
Yeah.
So I think David Lynch has got something with electricity. So.
Oh yeah, that's a big theme throughout.
And then we cut to the convenience store.
Yeah.
Which it was, of course, mentioned in Fire Walk With Me. That's the first kind of. Well, we see the convenience store, you know, scene in Fire Walk With Me, but the one our man mentions it in the original series as well. We lived above a convenience store, so. Things are starting to happen there. Things are really weird, like quick, really rapid fire, flittering around going on, smoke coming out, the lights going on and off, and then the woodsmen appear, and there's loads of them. You know, do you think that this is the actual birth of them? Do you think that's the actual moment where we see them created?
Well, it's interesting. We see that before we see the mother creature come down and spit up all that, whatever it is. So it's interesting that we see this first.
Yeah.
So again, we don't know the connection between them and the Bob creature or whatever, but there is a connection. I mean, we've seen them before in Fire Walk With Me above the convenience store. There's a couple of woodsmen there. Right. So I mean, it's just one of those. Sorry.
But then again, that was like later on, and this is 1945.
Depends on the time. Yeah, it depends on the time.
So it's like in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that we don't know. The experiment, we don't know if this is the first time that she does this. Maybe she's done this before, or she's done it again after. We haven't seen that.
It's possible. We don't know. Yeah, it's to say quite where things sit, but it's fascinating. You know, nevertheless, the images are striking. You know, with the woodsman and all that going on. I thought that was brilliantly done. Then, of course, as you said, Tim, we see. Mother, I think, Jaude or Judy, giving birth to Bob. I think she's giving birth to Bob.
Yeah.
And there's all these other little egg things within this kind of like spew that she does or whatever it is. You know? But anyway, it looks like Bob's hurtling towards Earth, or he's hurtling somewhere.
When I was looking at the convenience store, that whole scene with all these moving woodsmen, it also reminded me of a short movie by David Lynch, The Grandmother. And there are parts in there where there's a woman and a man are kind of like fast moving, and also the grandmother later on does this thing. The shaking, yes. It's like it's a real kind of
drawing in everything
thing
from his work in this.
Yeah.
Well, the whole series, and particularly this episode, is kind of like Lynch's greatest hits because you do see references to all of his work up to this point throughout the whole
black
series.
And white stuff, obviously.
Yes.
Everything. Yeah, all these shorts.
Even in the design, like I mean, you notice when they zoom into the castle where the fireman and his lady friend are, the windows are very much like some of the windows from the spaceships in Dune. Now, you wouldn't expect him to use the same design because, you know, he doesn't really like the experience he had making that film, but it's there nonetheless.
All there.
It's there.
He's, yeah, that's right. But this is lovely, though, when they go into, which I assume, I don't know, if it's a different part of the Lodge universe where Senorita Dido or Dido lives, inhabits. It's black and white world.
It's wonderful. It's like a silent movie.
It is, yeah. It's beautiful. But do you think it's an extension of the lodges where that place is? Do you think that is the White Lodge, or do you just think it's another thing?
Well, I don't think it really matters. I think what we're seeing here, though, is that it's another like callback to Eraserhead, where there's somebody in control of things, like the guy with the hatchets. Yeah. Instead, what we have here is people that are in control of some aspects of the universe, and they're there to maintain it. I mean, they're enjoying themselves with their music, and the alarm goes off. So the big guy has to go figure out what it's all about, and he does, and then he addresses the situation and performs a duty, I guess, so to speak. It's very good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Was it in the final dossier that they mentioned some type of a Grand Central station? Is it? I heard that recently. I'm getting confused, or maybe it's.
No, wasn't that the place where Major Briggs worked? Was it at some station? I remember that.
Oh yeah, but I read. I don't know. I'm so confused now with all this stuff that I've read and listened to and stuff. But I remember somebody saying referring to a place which I thought was like the White Lodge, which is like a Grand Central station. And, you know, the fact there are so many, like, train-looking, even, like, teapots like Philip Jeffries, like, you have a lot of those shapes there. So I feel like it's the Grand Central Station of those teapots or vortexes. And
I wonder, those big things that are in there, they look like big bells to me. I can't really... It actually defied description a bit. I can't quite put into words what they look like to me.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that was my first thought as well. Hey, that's a huge bell.
Yeah, it's like a kind of bell shaped thing. Yeah. But, it must alert that it's alerting them to.
Well, also in Fire Walk with Me, when Philip Jeffries is there, you see a frame on the wall, and those are big bells like this. Yeah. So I think it's all linked together, and also there's a lot of steam train kind of designs there as well. So I don't know. I feel like those guys are controlling things. But yesterday when I was watching, I was wondering if the fireman is like God in a way, because you know how he creates Laura.
Yeah.
She comes from him, like literally comes from his head.
Yeah, from his.
But he's not almighty. He has like other forces to struggle with as well. And just like God, he's not all good because they're still suffering. And I mean, people sometimes are like, oh, if there is a God, then he's so cruel. But I mean, I think he's trying to manage. He's like a manager. He's the manager of the world, trying to just get things in order a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also the balance in a way, like when you look at the experiment, she puts out her evilness into the world. And you look at the fireman together with Senorita Dido to kind of put in the good into the world, or actually to kind of like the counterbalance.
Yeah, yeah. But Senorita Dido looks great. She really, with the makeup, she really does look like she's come out of a kind of movie. Yeah. Really beautiful. The way the dark around the eyes and all that. It's great.
And her smile, like the facial expression she has, she's like, she's
smiling,
amazed. Yeah, she's smiling, and she's kind of like, wow.
Wondering,
Yeah, she's a spectator as well.
As it turns out, full of love as well. Because he creates the ball. The golden ball comes down to her, and Laura's face appears in it. Yeah, and she kisses it really, really, tenderly, and lifts it up into the sky again. And this is the bit that really I found really dodgy CGI. Was whatever that musical instrument thing was. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
French pipe.
Like a tuba or something. What is it?
Yeah.
And the ball goes into the golden ball goes into the tuba.
Yeah.
gets propelled into the screen that they're viewing this, everything on of the world, and pop, it goes into the screen, and it's heading to Earth.
I think that what she does, this actress that plays Dido, she's amazing.
Yeah,
she says so much without uttering a word.
All within her, yes, we were saying, all within her facial expressions.
I love that bit when she's like holding her arms up, waiting, and she's just looking. She's like an eager child, like
getting the balloon.
And then later, when it comes to her and she sees it, she gives kind of a "oh bless" look, and then kisses it.
It was so beautiful.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. And the music, we have to mention about the music, because it is. We have to admit, not only has the image is so startling and different to us now in season 3, but the music has changed quite a lot too. Because
it's brilliant though.
Badalamenti's new stuff is quite scarce on the ground throughout. When he does do a new composition, my God, man, is it effective? None more so than this scene. It just really rips at the heartstrings, that music, to me. It just works so beautifully with what's happening,
Perfect.
It's lovely. Yeah.
And it's confusing. Where are they? Is that like they're in space, but before that you see there's an ocean and a cliff.
Purple ocean.
Purple
ocean.
There are satellites.
Yeah. That's the purple place where Coop arrives first. In episode 3. The purple.
Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah.
So he's looking out at the same ocean, and he's in the same room that Senorita Dido is at the beginning, with the gramophone there. That's the room that the giant talks to him in.
Yes.
In episode 1. So he has been there before himself. Same chairs, everything. It's all the same. The floor's the same. That weird wavy floor. And so it's kind of bringing us back in a way, but bringing us forward as well. So the little ball goes off anyway. That's Laura heading to a fate or destiny. And then we go from 1945 to 1956 in the same area as very near to where the bomb blast happened. And an egg is on and this little egg hatches and out pops a frog moth. So then we see the young couple, young girl and boy, walking along. What looks like, Tim, to me and you guys, looks like they're walking past a convenience store or a version of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, is that the convenience store or is it something else? Or some other place?
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're in the same sort of area by the look of it, And
it is the same area because they're still in New Mexico, right? You see the clock go back.
That's right.
Go forward. Excuse me. This is the horror movie portion of the episode, which is really it's really cool how he does all these different styles. I mean, this is the actual horror film.
It looks like a 50s style, horror, yeah.
It starts sweet. It starts sweet.
It's a sweet little moment between the two sort of young kids,
And I find this coin. Yeah, on the floor.
It's heads up.
Yeah, for good luck.
And he says, "I hope you have good luck." But if what we're led to believe that the girl is Sarah Palmer, didn't look like she had much bloody luck at all, did she? As she got older, So that didn't quite work out.
Not really.
No. So anyway, he wants to give her a kiss, and so she's a little bit coy at first. Gives her a little kiss. She goes into her house. That's kind of the end of that scene. And then now we get the infamous line coming up. We've got a middle-aged couple driving along the road, and the woodsman walks into the middle of the road. They stop, comes around the side. Have you noticed you get all this kind of crackling electricity noises as well when he's approaching? So. Something really, really odd going on here,
Well, it's also interesting how they arrive flying out of the sky.
Yeah.
These guys. That just appears.
Did it take them such a long time to get from the experiment all the way down to the Earth?
It's lovely. It's quite funny, the landing. It's just really soft landing. Carries on walking. But we get, of course, he comes. They stop the car. You can see the woman's like really tense and that. and he comes around the windows. He comes around to the side of the driver, and then we get "Got a Late," which is going to go down in history. That line, I think. You know, and then there's another woodsman like staring at her from at the window, and she's like, really weird sounds coming out of it. It's like
really scared. Like, also low, like
weird low guttural sounds coming from the woman in fear, you know, in horror.
Yeah.
And "Got a Late" and all that, you know. And then they manage to speed off. Anyway, they get out of there. So that's that.
The lady reminded me of, you know, later on when in Twin Peaks, when near R&R, they think there's been a shooting, but it's just like a car accident. And there's the young kid throwing up, and she's like, you know, the woman who's late and she's freaking out and she's talking to Bobby. She looks a lot like that. So there's something about crazy ladies panicking in cars in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. The other one you were talking about with the girl vomiting.
They look alike.
The boy vomiting in the back.
Yeah.
What's happening?
It's kind of like 2 weeks in Total Recall. 2 weeks like this. I don't know. It's just a weird moment. I love it.
But now we get to the good bit. Well, the violent bit, shall we say, where the woodsman's on a mission. They've got a light guy. And he sees a radio station in the distance, so he's heading down there. And we get you're talking about things like reoccurring sometimes in Lynch's work. We get that song "My Prayer" playing, and that comes back later on again when we've got the scene with
Diane,
or Richard and Linda, wherever they are, you know, and that song's played again, which is kind of interesting. So he ends up getting in there, and this woman seems to find him quite alluring. She's sort of going towards him, you know, like under a spell kind of thing, until he goes and crushes her head to bits, crushes her skull quite violently.
It was very shocking. It's like, it makes you wonder why it takes so long with the guy in the control room.
Exactly.
He's crushing that skull for a good 5 minutes while he's reading.
Maybe she's just playing around.
Broadcast announcement. Yeah. Which, again, and that's another thing. He reads this poem, "This is the water and this is the well," you know, that thing, over and over again. And then we see, like, just sort of representing people, a little group of people that are listening into this radio station. So you've got a mechanic guy. You've got the girl in the diner, the woman in the diner, and you've got the young girl that we saw in her bedroom.
He puts them to sleep.
And he puts them all to sleep. Yeah. So this thing's hypnotic, you know, it's knocking people out. And then eventually he crushes the guy's skull in really violently, and all blood spills everywhere. Oh, it's pretty bad. And he just goes off and walks off into the distance at the end. And if you know, someone told me about this scene. I didn't even pick up on it.
The horse.
The horse sounds in the back.
You'll hear these horse sound, and I didn't at first. I did tonight, but so is that the white horse? That, you know, horse is the white of the eye. You know,
it sounded pretty scary. Like it was afraid or something.
Afraid of him.
Well, it's the horse from the poem, but also I think it's the white horse that, you know, in the previous seasons, we see it next to Sarah's bed, Sarah Palmer's bed. So I think it's been following her around for a bit, you know?
I think it's a kind of portent of doom or something. I think it's like an omen when something bad's happening or going. Or
the apocalypse.
That's when it seems to pop up, isn't it? That horse. You know,
you see this.
He's going to do something, and you know.
You also see the horse back in episode 18.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
In Odessa.
Yeah.
You see it in the lodge in the beginning as well, when the curtain flies up, and it's like, okay.
Getting out, you see the horse standing there,
Because up to then, we had just assumed it was a vision of Sarah Palmer's, because we saw it both on the night Laura was murdered and then the night Maddie was murdered.
Yeah.
So that was the reference then, but then, of course, they broadened it into something different now.
So it appears to be an actual entity in the lodge. Yeah. So we've got the poem. This is the water and this is the well, which I love.
I always wondered, why didn't it fly? Why did it fly only the last bit?
Yeah,
just
he
before?
only does a little fly up just into the window, doesn't he? And that's it.
Yeah. He could have flown the whole
He could have
thing.
flown all the way there, yeah.
And it seems like it's attracted by the poem. You know, I think it can hear the radio playing, so it kind of knows where to go in a way.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out, how did he know how to get that far, where to go, unless it was, as I say, all pre-planned. It was his destiny.
Exactly. How do they know that she will be Laura Palmer's mother, that Bob will get into Leland when he's like 12 years old or so? You know, I was wondering, how did they predict all of this?
It's all part of a
master plan.
Is that not the most WTF moment in the episode after a whole episode full of WTF moments? Because I mean, it's just like the episode ends, you're just like, everybody's watching, they're like, what the hell did I just watch? I mean, for an hour you've had everything shifting and immediately you have to go back and watch it again, because it just doesn't really quite add up the first time you see it.
I mean, I imagine how everyone felt when they first watched that episode. It must, because I know, people were commenting on it. As soon as it finished, everyone online was going, what the fuck was that? But in a good way. But we were just all like blown away by it, and all our senses were like on overload. And
then we had a scheduled week off, which gave you even more time to absorb it. I think that gave everybody a chance to go back to the beginning, watch the original 8 episodes so far, and just kind of reset your.
I think it was perfect how they did that when they gave it.
It was perfect.
Yeah, because that was one that you really did need time to digest. You know,
very much so.
One thing I was wondering at the beginning, before they started filming, wasn't it not the idea to only make 8 episodes?
That's been tossed around. That originally they had a plan of 9, and the reason they had the spat in the middle, I don't think that was ever the case, because people assume that having all these musical numbers and stuff is padding, and I don't think so. I think he had a vision. As always, he had a vision, and this was all scripted. If you see the behind the scenes on the new DVD,
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it either.
They're filming completely out of order. I mean, he's filming scenes from episode 15 or 16 first.
Oh yeah,
It's all dependent on who he's got when. They actually have to adjust the schedule at some point, because one of our actors is not quite well, and so you know who I'm talking about. It's just the point is, I think that's just the usual fan gobbledygook online that was ever doubled in length. I think that the plan was always the plan, and the script was, maybe they didn't know how many episodes they would need to film this huge script.
Exactly.
I remember Sabrina Sutherland saying that when David writes a script, it's different than when average people write a script. It's like normally one page is so many minutes.
He's more descriptive, isn't he? Whereas Mark Frost is more dialogue heavy.
Yeah. So he needed more time to get it. Filmed.
But
and one thing I was also thinking about, like, okay, this is the 8th episode. The number 8 becomes important at the end of the final. So
Interesting.
It's actually kind of linking back to this episode. So this episode is quite infinity.
Okay.
The infinity number. It's like it's making a 8 actually. Yeah. I made this thing where you can't.
I saw that you sent that.
Yes.
So is it infinity and the limitless power of 8? Yeah.
Yes. So I feel it's a bit like the middle of kind of the birth.
You see the number
birth
again, you know.
Yeah, as everything comes together. 8. Yeah, the power of 8.
Lynch definitely has a thing about numbers, doesn't he?
That's very cool.
For sure.
True. Like from the moment with the numbers on the switch, the socket that Coop goes into.
The completion number 10. What
number 3, 7 comes up a lot. All sorts.
Yeah. I've got a very cool one. Numerology. You always add things together. Mm-hmm. When you look at the last episode, which is number 18, you add 1 and 8 together is 9. When you look at the key, 3, 1, 5. When you add that together, 3 plus 1 plus 5. It's 9, and I've got this feeling that's like all over the place.
None of that would surprise me with him, though. It's not out of the realms of possibility, because you're talking about Lynch here, you know. Things that in his mind are significant, you know.
And also, when you look at 17 and 18, People have been talking about this. When you put the two episodes next to each other, you see symbolism in the same time.
I tried that, and I just couldn't see it.
That was also Sabrina Sutherland said that. That's fine if you want to watch them that way. That's fine, but you're wasting your time.
The funny thing is, this question has been asked at the festival, at the UK festival, and she was actually hinting that if you kind of put them next to each other, like literally at the start, then yes. But the way the question was put on Reddit, it's a kind of a different question. It's like it's in the details. But she kind of did say, yes, there is a kind of resemblance. And someone else in the audience also asked, like, is it also at other places, other episodes? And again, she was like, kind of hinting. She didn't say anything, but you could see in her expression.
I don't know if you guys have seen this one, but one fan did a brilliant thing where he had a side-by-side thing, and it does work, actually, of the glass box scene.
Yeah.
The couple, when they go out of the room, on the other side of the screen, you see Cooper coming into the box.
Yeah, that's implied by the two episodes anyway, though. The guy also, it also works with what's happening in episode 3 when he's flying through the space and lands on the little station with the big battery. In other words, these events are all happening at the same time, even though we don't see them that way. That's just... But by the middle of the series, we can kind of tell that there's something wrong with time, and we're not necessarily seeing things ordered. I mean,
weird stuff going on, like the in the diner when they cut from one end of the diner to the other. There's different people there.
Not to mention the scene Cooper's out for a night on the town. Yeah. Dougie is. Meanwhile, he's at home playing ball with Sonny Jim. So, in other words, there's several clues there that what you're saying isn't exactly in the right order, and that may have something.
Is it future or is it past?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of patterns. I feel like they're using different but similar patterns, so that's why it feels like deja vu, or it's like if you put one bit next to the other, it's the exact same length of time that this plays on a loop when Sarah Palmer is watching the animals, like the lions and stuff. But I feel like the way it's constructed also is they have like patterns that come back, so that's why they match so well. So you can use the imagination and basically see what you want to see in there as well. Maybe it's not a clear message, but there's a rhythm.
Yes.
I agree.
That's another thing that when it comes to David Lynch, there's no correct answer. It's again, like we discussed earlier, it's what you bring to it. So a lot of people see different things that other people will just go right over their head. So it's amazing.
It is.
I love all these ideas. It's so beautiful.
I love it. I really do. I love this sort of thing. And nevermore. And with this episode, it's just endless theories and things you could. I think we'll be talking about this, and not just this. I think it's unfair just for everyone to say that this was the. Everyone should just see this episode, and that's
no,
not at all. Watch all of it.
Well, it's out of context anyway. Even though really it itself is out of context from the rest of the series in a lot of ways. What it's doing is building mythology. It's putting the series in a bigger context. With the creation of these creatures that we really had never saw in the original series.
Right. And I think that's beautiful. I'm so glad they did that.
That's why it all steps up a game in this episode. And I think it was a great idea that we had a week off. Not at the time. At the time, I was like, I want more. But,
there has been moments, even while watching an episode, I had to stop watching because it was so much coming at me. Just I can't really digest this.
I very quickly rewatched it again the same day. I couldn't get
several times. In fact, I got into a pattern towards the later half of the series where I just watched the previous 2 and then watched the one for that night, and then the next week the previous 2. So by the end of the series, I'd seen all the episodes several times.
Yeah, same here. I must have watched them each one when they were going out after they went, afterwards, 2 or 3 times within the week, before the next one. I kept watching the same one again. I couldn't. You just can't help it. And you see new things each time as well, because, as I say, with each episode, you don't pick up on everything the first viewing. You just don't,
And you get confused as well. I forgot. I was like, well, what happened last week? So I had to go back and soak this in again and then see the new stuff.
Yeah.
It was such a great summer, wasn't it?
Wow.
Yes, it was.
Perfect time to show it, wasn't it? Because it just got us all staying inside in like hot conditions. Watching
I'm so happy that it happened. That we got this. I'm still very happy with this.
Yeah. We're very lucky.
Yeah.
And if we never get it again, I mean, of course, all of us in our heart would love to see more. But if that was really it, then by God, we were lucky to get that.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, you know.
For sure.
Because I never saw that coming, you know, for years and years and years in the wilderness. Didn't think we'd ever get 18, let alone 9 or one movie or whatever. And we got 18 hours of it, which is, you know.
And it would be so mind-blowing as well. You know, I was expecting season 3. I was expecting a lot more cherry pie, you know.
Yeah.
I got very little cherry pie and a lot of nuclear explosions and wonderful things.
Yeah. Everything we didn't expect is what we got, and that's the way it should be, you know. If it had been all predictable, it would have been.
It would be predictable.
Bit of nostalgia, but it would have probably got quite
now I'm spoiled though. I feel like I can't. It's harder for me to watch just like regular TV shows. You know, I was okay binge watching those before, but now I know everything that's coming. It's just, I don't know. I'm so glad that you guys exist as well, that I'm not the only one who's fascinated by season 3 and Twin Peaks in general, because it would be very lonely to just have all this amazing stuff all for myself. So I'm glad we can share it just like a pie.
I'm so glad now in the age of social media that we can do that, you know, and from all different parts of the world, you know, because there was a time when, as I said before, I won't go into too much, but when the original series was on, I had no one to talk to about it.
Same here.
No one I knew watched it. So I was always watching it on my own, and I couldn't go, you know, like that water cooler moment they always talk about the next day and talk about it with someone, because no one watched it or they found it too weird, you know.
Yeah.
So I never had that.
Community.
Yeah. You know,
do you know what I think actually is that we've got now the return and we've got the community, but within the community there are also people that are making TV shows like Damon Lindelof. He loves Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
there are gonna be people that are gonna be inspired by this and are gonna make beautiful TV shows in the future. We just have to wait. This will happen.
That's the seed that's been planted.
Art house. Cinema for television. That's the new art house, he calls it.
Yes.
Because there was years when he was resisting television. Then again, maybe he wasn't getting any offers either. You know, because he was in the wilderness for a good 10 years. You know, really. You know, Inland Empire is his last big filmic, you know, theatrical release.
And then even then too, that was
he wasn't really, you know, and his music,
very limited release, and I think Laura Dern paid for most of it, to be honest.
Yeah,
she's got the production credit. So I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think anybody saw it. I mean, it just kind of came and went.
Yeah,
and it's kind of sad because he is that kind of director you'd love to see more of, but it always comes down to the money. Somebody's got to pay for it, you know.
See, no, I think he struggled within that empire. He never made back the money because I think a French company were the only people that were kind of being his crutch at the time. I think it was Cinema Canal, I think.
Big difference now.
They helped back a lot of his latter films.
No, but even this,
faith in him like that, you know.
Even this though was an experiment that it's very critically well acclaimed. I mean, it's the critics love this, but it still didn't get the numbers as far as viewers.
No, so, it was very, very small compared to all the other limited series that are on and stuff like that. Nowhere near. I think it only got. I think when people actually watched it through, as it went out on
Showtime. Yeah.
On Showtime, the figures were very small, but on the streaming, I think that's where the higher figures came in. But it still was nowhere near what the others, you know, other shows were getting. You know. They could have been doing, I don't know.
I think because it's got a built-in audience that's a cult audience. It's not a huge audience. It's people that are in the know. And it's one of those things where, you know, you can tell your friends, hey, check out Twin Peaks, it's coming back. But then they would have to go back and watch. Otherwise, they won't get all of the context that And a lot of people didn't have time or the wherewithal to do that. So, I mean, you're going to have a limited audience to begin with. And of course, when you have a speed bump like episode 8, that's just going to, if you're not familiar with this kind of territory, you're going to be
break a new audience and what to say.
No, yeah. You're going to be.
They're going to struggle. They're going to go, no, I can't watch any more of that.
I have no idea what I'm watching.
I know it's not for everybody. That's something I've noticed.
It's not.
Yeah. I've been talking to other people about it, and some people are just going like, oh, "It's too difficult for me. I don't."
That's the thing that you see. Showtime. I don't know if I wouldn't say they took a big gap. I don't know how Showtime are feeling about it now.
I think they're happy with it. They haven't complained about it.
They sell a lot of merch.
He was saying he's still in great. He's still in great communication with them and everything. So there's no problem there. And I think I think you're right, Tim. I think that there was something that they said they would consider it if they're, picking up again. Maybe Lynch hasn't resisted as such. Hasn't said no to a new series. Mark Frost hasn't either.
I don't think it would be. I don't think it's ever really going to come. I think that was a good way of finishing it in a lot of ways, for good.
I understand Tim's point, but at the same time, I remember when I finished part 18, I thought there's so much material to go on with. I'm just afraid, they're going to wait too long and everybody's going to die, and then they're going to have new cast. I don't know. I don't want this. I'm in a hurry, and I think I need to work on that. I need to let go of that, but I can't completely. I just want next summer to be as fulfilling as 2017.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen for a few years, but it would be great. It would be so lucky. And I don't know. I want them to want to do it. They need to want to.
If their heart's not in it and they don't want to go through that long process again, then it wouldn't be worth it at all.
And you also need the inspiration.
They have to have the right.
So what's yeah. How do you continue?
They have to want to do it, and secondly, they have to have the ideas.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's nothing, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm very, just proud. Actually, maybe it's not the right word, but it's kind of genius the way it ended. It's like it's an open end, but also closed at the same time. It's like, how do you do that? It's so smart.
It was a very clever ending.
Yeah.
So tense and
Yeah.
What year is this? That's going to hold us for a while.
But the worst part for me, like the most, the bit that hurts in a way is the whole whisper when Laura is whispering in Dale's.
We don't know what she was.
Exactly, that drives me crazy. I think that's one of the reasons. I know we'll never get closure ever. Even if there's season 17 at some point, it will always remain a mystery in a way. That's just like when it adds up.
It will remain like that. I think
that's by design, though. I think that the brilliant way, the way it ended is that it's got so many possibilities. Like I said, there's no correct answer. I mean, you can say, okay, this is what happened. And another person say, this is what happened. And that's why it's a brilliant ending to the series, even though it's very down, it's very depressing. When you first see it, you're like...
Yeah.
But to me, to me, the happy ending is Dougie. I mean, because if you think about it, Dougie goes home, and that's Cooper. Cooper is Dougie. So he retires to Las Vegas with his wife and kid and his great boss and his wonderful friends at the casino. I mean, that's the happy ending right there.
Yeah,
I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, that's a lovely
that, and also Andy and Lucy will get to have their study. So that's a happy ending as well.
Yeah. To me, the episode 17 always felt like a light episode, and 18 more like a darker, heavy episode. And it feels like balance as well, like dark and light. It
was lighter in some ways.
Yeah.
A bit more.
But you see that he's very clever with that. There's so many ways you can look at it. Is it a dream? If so, what parts of it are a dream? Because remember, it all shifts in the middle of that episode, and suddenly things are not how they were. This guy's not even really Cooper anymore. He's become Richard, hasn't he? Because Cooper, when he's in that diner, Judy's, he's not acting very Cooperish.
Like Cooper,
no,
another version. That's another version.
And that's the strangest that Lynch got away with too. That out of 18 episodes, you have the real Cooper for maybe an hour,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
from the middle of episode 16 to the middle of episode 17, that's your Cooper.
He's only reunited with his old pals at the sheriff station for about 2 minutes, and he's off again. Got to go.
Yeah.
It's so abrupt.
Amazing.
I was so happy when I saw the Twin Peaks sign and Cooper being in the car, like, yes, finally.
Yeah.
That race to get there was so brilliant. I love that. Yeah.
It's really like Homer's Odyssey. I feel, it's just this endless journey. It's amazing. In my head, I can definitely go up until season 17. I can imagine that many. I mean, it's not going to be as good as what Frost and Lynch do, but you can do that.
Yeah. Well, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on this one, because this one is a very special one, as we all know.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
About it, and I hope you guys also enjoyed it out there. And we'll be back with the next one I'm going to do, because I'm not doing all of them. I'm just doing part of them. So the next one we're going to do is, after this, is part 11.
Oh.
Don't ask me what happens in that yet, because I'll have to look at it first. But that's the one I've picked.
You're just picking random numbers.
Just give us a few tips. Anyway, part 11. I think it's a good one, though. Yeah. So we'll see you guys then. So until then, take care.
Take care as well.